It could have really been an intelligence plot to try to sink Joe Biden. And they countered it. And the way they countered it was by blocking the story from Twitter.
You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Joe Rogan did a podcast with this guy, Chris Williamson, who I happened to cover the other day because he did a podcast with Hunter Biden and 2 other comedians, and they talked about the laptop and Hunter's addiction and all that stuff. Joe kind of lightly confronts this Williamson guy in saying that he had told him about this idea that he had to have that exact same conversation with Hunter Biden, and that some of the guys were upset that he stole the idea. So that's interesting. And then Rogan goes on down this weird little like rabbit hole about Hunter Biden and almost scratches the surface of the truth for just a second, even though he's using AI for all of it. So here's the part where he confronts Chris Williamson about stealing his idea of talking to Hunter Biden.
Did you, when you talked to Hunter Biden, do you guys talk about crack?
All the time.
So I told you that I was going to do that, and then we didn't do that, and you did it.
I didn't take the idea, I promise.
I told it to you, though. You already had it booked?
We had it booked
in advance,
already.
but you didn't tell me you had it booked when I told you that we were going to do it.
Should I have told you?
No, it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry that
it doesn't matter. Some of the guys got upset, like, you took our idea. We were going to do a Protect Our Parks with Hunter Biden, but then Ari, because we thought Ari couldn't make it, we wanted to do another Protect Our Parks. And Ari was in London, and Ari was like...
He's moved to London.
Yeah, and he was like, I'll fly back for that. And we were like, all right, fuck Hunter Biden. And so we didn't.
It's just as well I got him. Or he'd have had no fun. Yeah, he talked a lot about crack. Dude, I got to say, he's so likable. It's terrifying how likable he is.
Well, you know, I mean, he grew up with a politician, and you know, he's a smart guy.
Maybe. I mean, I was trying to find the manipulative game that's being played here or whatever.
It's interesting that he took a long time out of the public eye, many, many years, and then he sort of reemerged. And some people are very upset. Some people are very upset that like these conservatives are platforming him, like, you know, they're criticizing that, but you don't want to hear about what his story's like. I mean, this guy's obviously, he lived a wild life.
All right, so Rogan's pissed because he wanted to do not just an interview with Hunter Biden where he asked him about crack, but specifically the kind of roundtable setup that Williamson does end up doing on his show. So, like, he kind of did steal the idea, even though it is just to ask Hunter Biden about one of the most obvious things to ask him about. The type of podcast that Williamson set up is pretty much that exact same kind of idea, just like 3 comedians bullshitting in a circle. It's exactly what it would have looked like if Rogan had done it. But honestly, I think Rogan's political leanings are what gets in the way of him talking to these people more than anything. And he kind of paints it these days as though they duck him like Kamala Harris was ducking him, or, you know, other people on the left like Hunter Biden. There's no way that he couldn't have made a podcast happen earlier with Hunter Biden. How did this guy get one scheduled with him before you did? Most people, especially doing the type of thing Hunter Biden's doing right now, would drop everything to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. So I don't know. I'm just not really buying that. He has a consistent stream of right-wingers on his show. And I would believe, though, that sometimes behind the scenes, that probably gets in the way with people on the Democratic or liberal side scheduling interviews with Joe Rogan. There might be people on their team that decide that they shouldn't do that or warn against it or whatever. I would believe that. But it seems to me that Rogan is one of the more consistent obstacles. As I've said before, he just wants his show to be balanced towards the right. He wants it to be a platform for the right because he feels that that's underrepresented. And so that leads to a lot of batshit crazy things being said on his platform. I think he would have a good conversation with Hunter Biden. He probably will at some point. Maybe he feels burned by this experience. But here's a weird moment where he kind of talks himself in a loop about Hunter Biden and convinces himself that the Hunter Biden laptop story just might have been an intelligence op.
Is the laptop real, or is it really they hacked into his cloud and then they put it on a laptop? Because I've heard him say that there's way too much data for it to have ever been on a laptop.
20 years. Yeah, it was 2 decades. It was everything. Every text message, every photo, every.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you get in through the laptop.
What is his, but is it actually in the laptop, or did someone put it in the laptop? I think, like, I don't want to say anything incorrect here, so let's just make sure that I'm correct. or let's just find out what the truth is. Is his position that they hacked into his cloud, and that's how they got all those videos of him like smoking crack and going 170 miles an hour and getting foot jobs and all that stuff, like that all was in the cloud, that wasn't on a laptop that he just handed to a repair store, that's a bullshit narrative to cover for the fact that they hacked into his cloud and got all of his photos and videos?
He didn't give us the specifics on that one. What I do think would have happened is maybe you get into the cloud through the laptop. If you've got access to that, if you open up the laptop because you need to have the logins, then you can just get into someone's iCloud through that.
But you have to log in. Once you get the laptop, you have to have the passwords.
It's crazy, dude. I mean,
I would assume he's got some passwords.
Biden did not definitively
have no real answer to that.
He did not definitively claim the Delaware laptop was hacked or stolen in a 2021 CBS interview. This is a long time ago. He said did not know whether or not floated several possibilities, including that a laptop was stolen from me, that he was hacked, or that Russian intelligence was involved. Okay, he's doing the Russia shit back then.
Yeah. I had to push it for more clarification.
Okay, in August 2026 interview with Tucker Carlson, Biden reportedly said, "Hey, reportedly, you're Perplexity. Come on, you're supposed to tell. Didn't you listen?
Everything.
Didn't you watch Perplexity?" In August 2026 interview, Biden reportedly said they hacked my cloud. He denied the full collection described as his laptop could all have originated from one device, saying it was way too large. He suggested an unknown actor, potentially an intelligence service or another person, could have taken digital material and combined it with the purported laptop narrative. So that's possible. In a July 2026 Substack launch, he wrote that the provenance was never established, that no court forensics examiner had certified a chain of custody sufficient to make evidence rather than theater. He did acknowledge that material associated with reflected his addiction struggles.
Here's the one thing, too, I find very interesting about it.
What?
It's on the screen. The guy who ran the shop that the laptop was supposedly dropped off at.
Because he's legally blind.
Could not confirm who the customer was because he's legally blind.
Oh, how convenient. How convenient. So he probably never went to that place. It's probably a total fake story. And they made up a fake story. Maybe they even stole a laptop of his. It could have really been an intelligence plot to try to sink Joe Biden. And they countered it. And the way they countered it was by blocking the story from Twitter. A factual story from the New York Post. Giuliani apparently held the information for months and released it less than 3 weeks before the election. Giuliani has long been involved in efforts by the president and his allies to highlight Hunter Biden's work overseas to damage Joe Biden and boost Mr. Trump's re-election campaign. And in 2019 met with a Ukrainian lawmaker who has been deemed an active Russian agent by the U.S. government.
Yeah, so it's weird. He goes from talking about, he was saying Russia back then, to then considering that this could have been information op from some intelligence agency. Gee, I wonder who that could have been. The reports at the time was that, through some kind of deal, Russians hacked Hunter Biden's laptop, his materials, and then passed it along to Rudy Giuliani to create this news story. That was literally reported on years ago, before any of these interviews that they're citing here. That was pretty much out there. So it's long been understood that what was produced in the dump was largely real. There was a ton of conjecture about things that were not real. But most of the debauchery that was attached to Hunter Biden really came from, as he puts it, his cloud, or it was just sort of all of his private digital footprint collected and then passed along through this weird story about the blind shopkeeper. So Joe, in talking to Perplexity about this for 5 seconds, convinces himself that it might have been a genuine information op, and it was. And then the story, attempted to get shut down, which supposedly made it blow up. Now, I have my skepticisms about how that whole process works. Because for a lot of right-wingers, they look at it like that. They're like, well, there's this true story about the laptop, and they're suppressing it. They're removing it from social media, this and that. And then now we're talking about this idea that it was actually not really a laptop. So it was hacked materials that were then produced in a news story. So What Twitter was saying about it at the time is that they removed it because it was hacked materials, and that went against their code of conduct. The whole reason it was removed from Twitter in the first place, which eventually led to Elon Musk buying the platform, if you think about it, was because it was clearly an information op, even if not from Russia, from fucking somewhere, that, as Joe Rogan admits here, wanted to tank Joe Biden. So I don't expect this epiphany that Joe has had here to stick. It'll probably get washed out by the next thing that they generate using Perplexity, and he'll just kind of move on to the next theory. But I imagine he'll end up having a conversation with Hunter Biden at some point, because Hunter Biden is talking to any and everybody. And just to pivot into a slightly different subject here, I wanted to talk about first what Hunter Biden had to say in an interview with the Lincoln Project about Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker came up. Hunter Biden just brought him up, candidly, because of how much specifically the Democratic Party side is focusing on Hassan Piker right now, trying to make an example out of him instead of focusing on, winning races. So here's Hunter Biden talking about that for a second.
I turn on these shows and it drives me insane. I turn on these shows and it's like a circular firing squad, because they end up talking about Hassan Piker for 45 minutes. You know what Hassan Piker did? Hassan Piker is a live stream guy that has been doing it for I don't know how many years, and he has thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of him just feeling shit talking into a microphone. By the way, but at the same time, you know what Hassan Piker's done? He has created a little bit of a movement of a group of people that are absolutely opposed to the fascism of Donald Trump. And you know what? I want to tap into that. I don't want to opt out of it. I want to figure out with Hassan Piker whether or not we can find common ground and fight against the same enemy. Instead, what these guys are doing is he's a virulent anti-Semite, and everybody's this, that, and the other thing. And it's just like, and he said this about 9/11, and he said that. It's like, my
All right,
God.
so, this is pretty common sense here. I genuinely think this is how most of the base feels, but the more establishment wing of the party has decided that they really want to stop everything they're doing and focus on Hassan Piker. They feel he is the most important issue going on in these races. So you have Neera Tanden, as well as a whole litany of Democratic elected officials that all came out with a kind of coordinated message about Hassan, and how a recent comment that he made was anti-Semitic, and these comments won't stand. So this is them really trying to seize on a particular moment to say, we're going to try to make this the straw that broke the camel's back. I wanted to play for you what Hassan said that they are freaking out about. So here's that.
And try to get your elderly relatives to understand that this connection between Israel and Zionism that is expressed over and over again through a lot of these Jewish institutions, okay, is teaching people the idea that Jews are monolithic. And this is it's a very dangerous mode of propaganda. And you want to know why? Because people don't fuck with Israel any longer. And if Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone's going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, mind you, but against American Jews. Okay? We're teaching people the wrong
All right, so
lesson.
this is the exact same thing that Hassan Piker has been saying this entire time about anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, and how conflating those two things is the most dangerous thing that people could do on this issue of Israel. And he's saying here that it will lead to violence because the amount of violence that the state of Israel is doing is unbelievable. So tying Judaism and Jewish identity to that is a very dangerous position to put Jewish people in. Now, like I said, I think they're seizing on a moment that they think they can use to say this is unacceptable speech. And let me be clear about who I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the Democratic Party establishment, specifically as it is tied to AIPAC and the Israel lobby. That is what is orchestrating this messaging here. And clearly they have several Democratic politicians, very high-level Democratic politicians, on speed dial to deliver a message like this. They haven't listened to this. They don't know what the fuck Hassan Piker's talking about. They're not listening. They're just saying what they're supposed to say, and they know that this is one of their biggest issues where their bread is buttered. So they have to deliver on what the Israel lobby wants because they are terrified of losing that support. Now, the interesting thing is that it seems that the Israel lobby is kind of working through Democrats to tank the Democrats. That's what I see when I look at this. They're saying we would rather push against the momentum of the Democratic Party because it is anti-Zionist than see Democrats win. And you're seeing here a bunch of Democrats who are willing to put their name behind saying we'd rather lose than accept that Hassan Piker brings voters out in the Democratic Party that Democrats have failed to bring out. I also, though, don't think it's a coincidence that what he's saying here is Jews in America are going to have to talk to their elders about this and try to convince them of this danger, that this is a dangerous framework to be talking from within. I think that is a very threatening idea to them, that the influence Hassan Piker has had on younger people in the Democratic Party could start to creep into older demographics in the Jewish community if some of those conversations start to happen. And I do think that's a threat to them. I also think it's somewhat inevitable. I think the momentum we've seen in the anti-Zionist direction has been overwhelming, and it will continue. And I think Hassan Piker needs to be defended on this because his statements are completely defensible. His statements on Zionism and anti-Semitism have always been defensible. And this is not a dissimilar coordinated media attack happening on Hassan Piker than the one that happened on Hunter Biden. The only difference is that the Democrats didn't collaborate quite as much when the smear campaign came against Hunter Biden.
I'm in the pocket, and they know they can't slow it, can't stop shit. How the game so cold, so toxic, can't drop cause they're in somebody's pocket. For me that's not it.